Hello, everyone. My name is Michael McClinton. I'm one of the business advisors here with the Collin SBDC. So thank you for attending today's seminar. If this is your first seminar that you're having a chance to take advantage of as part of our CARE series, welcome. If this is your second one or you've attended others in the past, thank you for coming back. Just some housekeeping things. If you're interested in seeing other webinars that we're going to be hosting either in the future or ones that we've done previously, that will be available on our YouTube page. And if you want to register for upcoming seminars, you can do that on our website, collinsbdc.com/CARES seminars. And then lastly, I encourage you after this particular seminar to complete the CARES application that's found also on the website. That will give you an opportunity to potentially receive custom consulting at no cost or specialized training in your specific field. But without further ado, let me turn it over to our speaker today, John Jantsch, and let him take it away.
All right, thanks, Michael. All right, so we're going to talk about evolving your marketing and with the times. Obviously, there's a lot of crazy things going on. So maybe adopting, evolving is really what we all need to do. I'm going to give you just a little bit of background on me. I've actually owned my own small business marketing consulting firm for coming up on 30 years now. Like a lot of people, I jumped in, no real plan. I knew I could hustle work and get some business. I got big clients, I got little clients, I got big projects, I got little projects. And somewhere along the road, I decided I really loved working with small businesses. There's something, I think, equal parts gratifying and terrifying about doing the work for the person who is physically writing the check for you that day. But I also found that in some ways, at least how I'd been trained, working with small business owners was a little frustrating. I mean, they had the same needs and challenges, certainly never the same budgets or even attention spans. And so I decided what I needed to do to kind of solve my frustration and allow me to work with small business owners exclusively was I needed to create a very systematic approach to marketing where I could walk in and say, look, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you're going to do. Here are the results we hope to get. And by the way, here's what it costs. And I pretty quickly found out that in attempting to solve my greatest frustration, I actually tapped into what I'm guessing for many of you is still one of your greatest frustrations today. And that is buying marketing or figuring out what to do in marketing is extremely frustrating. It's probably the hardest thing that you have to do because marketing is evolving, marketing is changing, so many new platforms and things have come along. Everybody's selling a piece of the puzzle. So how do you really approach it? So what I want to cover today is really kind of a comprehensive, almost systematic approach for how to think about marketing. We're going to talk about, and I'll cover each of these in details. I'm going to talk about how you should narrow your focus to what are at least your top 20% today, or what I'm calling an ideal client. One of the challenges we get into, struggles we get into as businesses is trying to be all things to all people. And if you can figure out a way to really figure out, what's the real problem that I'm solving for this ideal customer? What's the transformation they're seeking? That what are we really good at doing? Life will be a lot easier. You'll be able to attract more of those ideal clients. And then I want to talk a little bit about a process for creating the perfect customer journey. A lot of times people think in terms of, I just need to run an ad, get somebody to come know about me, and then sell them something. And we have to understand that the way people buy, has changed dramatically today, and we have to actually address their changing needs and questions and objections and objectives at each of those stages of the journey. Then we need to use content as a way to, today, it's not just a tactic. I mean, it's the voice of strategy. We have to use it as a way to attract that ideal customer or the story they're already telling themselves. And then I believe that one of the greatest ways to scale your business is with this existing or this top 20%, rather than just going out and getting more and more new customers. So that's what we're going to cover today. And if any of that sounds great, you're in the right place, but I'm going to unpack each of those steps individually. So the first one is this idea of an ideal client. Not everyone who seems to have a need for what it is that you sell is ideal. And the challenge is when we try to attract just anyone, to some degree, sometimes we're successful and we get that red flag client. We get those clients that aren't a really good fit because they didn't fully understand what it is that we do or the value or the way that we like to work. In a small business, particularly, I have a consulting practice. We don't have thousands of clients. I mean, at any given time, we might have a dozen or 24 clients. And so you get 3 or 4 that aren't a good fit. It can be very disruptive. So how do you figure out who makes an ideal client for your business or customer for your business? Here's what I've done for years. I would ask you to take your customer base today and rank them by profitability. So obviously, if you've got thousands of customers versus 10 customers, it's a little different idea. But just try to look through and who are your best customers? Who are your most profitable customers? Who are your customers that you would be able to easily say, gosh, if we just had 10 or 20 or 30 more of those, life would be great. So kind of rank them by profitability. A couple things that I have found over the years, experience tells me, is that you will probably, if you do this exercise, you will probably be surprised that you do more work than maybe you thought with certain types of clients or in certain types of industries. That typically happens for a lot of people. The other thing that I won't be surprised if you discover is that there's a percentage of your client base towards the bottom, towards that not so profitable end of the list, that you probably scratch your head and say, why are we even doing business with them? Or why are we servicing that? Or why are we selling that product? Because we don't, a lot of times this happens because we evolve, we grow, and we're no longer working with that type of client, but hey, they said they continue to pay us, and so they're there. I have a lot of folks that will actually do this exercise, and they will immediately cut some percentage of their products or services or types of clients from their roster because they realize, hey, we're not making any money. Ultimately, what this list produces then is kind of from profitable to least profitable. And if a client is not profitable, there's a really good chance that you're not taking very good service of them. They tend to be, the ones that beat you up on price and you agreed to a deal that day. And so, quite frankly, they're not a good fit. And unfortunately, those folks that are not a good fit sometimes turn into detractors. But I want you to focus on this upper right box, your most profitable clients that also refer business to you, that you can actually say, yeah, these are raving fans, or they've actually referred, a client or two to us. Then we want to take that group, your most profitable clients who also refer, and we want to really study, the common characteristics of your most profitable customers that also refer business to you, because that is the profile of your ideal customer. They were profitable, which means they probably had the right problem. They probably understood how you're going to solve their problem. They're referring business to you because they had a great experience, which again is to me is another sign that they were a good fit. So the idea here is that you would take that profile and you really study who those folks are and start building your entire business around attracting more of them. That doesn't mean you wouldn't take anything outside of that, but you want to make your website, you want to make all of your marketing copy, you want to make all of your sales approaches really tailored for the messages that those folks need to hear. I'll give you another little exercise to do. Once you've got that group, or once you want to start thinking about, well, gosh, I don't know, maybe you don't have that many clients. I don't know how to actually determine who would make an ideal client for my business. Here's another exercise that can be helpful. Most businesses have identified what somebody must have, right? If I'm a remodeling contractor, somebody must own a house, for example. Or if I'm a local business, somebody must be in my community or in my zip code or whatever it is you determine your geographical area as. And most businesses have identified those. I mean, obviously, somebody's got to have certain things before they even qualify to be a customer of yours. But then start asking yourself, when I've actually gotten a phone call or when I've actually gotten a client and they had this going on, or they had this need, or they had this budget, those are the things that you start wanting to think about, nice to have. And then the last bucket is, what are the things that make a client ideal? So for me, one of the things that I've discovered, I work with small local businesses. One of the things that we discovered is that small local businesses who invest in their community, who serve on boards, belong to chambers, that believe in giving back to their community. That's an ideal behavior that to us demonstrates that they also believe in investing in marketing rather than seeing it as a cost. So we are able to identify the things that somebody must have in order for us to even have a conversation with them. We've identified the things that really make somebody nice to have, and then we've identified the things that make somebody ideal. And what we do is we spend our time, if we're gonna only have limited time, say in social media, or if we're only gonna have limited time in some networking group that we belong to, we're going to identify the people that have that ideal behavior. In fact, we might start writing content to actually help somebody identify that they're ideal. So we might actually write, in fact, we have written a blog post about why giving back to your community is such a strong thing to do to help scale your business. And what that does is that has the tendency to help us attract people that have that ideal behavior. Now, obviously, in all of your businesses, your situation will differ, but these two exercises are a great way to get that narrower focus. Now, I'm going to give you one last thing to focus on, because a lot of times people start thinking, well, I don't know how to identify, what does he mean by these must-haves and things? Start with the negative. Unfortunately, we've all probably come from this point of view. What are some things that you don't want? What are some types of customers that you don't want? A lot of times that's easier for people to identify, and you start stripping away, well, I don't want people that do this, or I don't want people to, like, for us, startups aren't really always great for us, because we preach a long-term approach, investing in marketing as a long-term approach, installing a system. So in many cases, you can get to the ideal customer by stripping away all the ones that are not ideal. All right, so here's kind of your checklist then for them. All right, who are our best clients? Are they repeat business opportunities to do more? Do they communicate, collaborate? Are they teachable? Do they care about their industry? I mean, those are some of the things that we've discovered make somebody ideal. So you've got to think, and I'm going to spend some more time on this, what is it that you do? What do you excel at doing for them? How could you do it better? How could you impact their entire ecosystem? And then lastly, could you create systems to do that so that you can get more efficient at it? In many ways, this could become an entire plan for you before we really go any further into any of the tactics. I want to spend some time, now that we've identified that ideal client, let's talk about the message, the core message that's going to help you differentiate your business from everybody else who says they do what you do. Here's one bit of cold water. Nobody really wants what we sell. I don't care what it is that you sell. I mean, there's some things that we really don't want, but nobody wakes up. I sell consulting. Nobody wakes up and says, I think I'm going to go buy some consulting today. No, they wake up and they say, why are my competitors ranking above me in search engines? Or why every time when I answer the phone does somebody ask for a lower price? I mean, people want their problems solved. And if we're the business that can identify and communicate that we get what their problems are and that we're focused on solving, in fact, we promise to solve those problems, that's how you stand out. Again, nobody wants what we sell. Nobody cares what industry you're in. In a lot of cases, they don't even care how long you've been in business or how big you are, unless you can talk about addressing their problems. Construction companies have a problem. I'll give you a couple examples. When they get a big project, it's a fun day, right? They get this new big project, but then they have to go out and hire people and equipment and kind of gear up a lot of times to get this new work done. So in this particular case, our client was an architect that served these general contractors. We went out and interviewed their clients, which is something that we do in every case. And we heard a couple times people say, yeah, they do good work, but what we really love is they help us get paid faster. After hearing that about 3 times, we kind of had to back up and say, well, what does that mean? So we went back to the architect and they said, well, we've got a city council person on staff, and we've got a couple people that are on zoning boards. And consequently, we have a pretty good handle on what the priorities of cities are and neighborhoods are, and where the red tape's going to be and where we're going to have issues. And so we're pretty good at getting our plans approved by City Hall. Well, when a plan's of a project get approved, the contractor gets to make that first draw, and all of a sudden they get paid faster. So while every other architect in town was saying, hey, we do great work, we've been awarded all these things for our designs, their business development people were going out to contractors and saying, we're the contractor. We help contractors get paid faster. This message took them from being kind of middle of the pack to being the number one design build architect in their community, because it was focused on the problem that they really solved for their clients. I'll give you another example. Universities increasingly have an issue. A lot of their funding now is tied to graduation rates, how fast people graduate, and how affordable tuition is. Our client in this particular case made software for scheduling. You imagine how the project of all the buildings, all the classes, all the things that a campus has to really do. Well, there are only about 5 companies that make software that's focused exclusively on universities, and our client was the most expensive by far. So we went and asked their clients, why do you stay with them? Why do you buy from them? They're more expensive. And we kept hearing again, well, yeah, their software does what they say it will do. But what we really love is the analytics they're able to give us allow us to be better schedulers, better planners, allow us to graduate people on time. This company makes their tuition more affordable. Everybody else was focused on the scheduling and the ease of use of the software. And those were all important things. But the data that this software produced actually drew the interest of the provost, and actually eventually the state legislatures, who actually started mandating that some of these universities would use their software because of its ability to graduate people faster. So what problem do you actually solve? And again, it probably has nothing to do with your service, nothing to do with your products. It's, in many cases, it's things that you probably take for granted because you just do them because your mom taught you that's how you treat people. But don't underestimate the value of that. This is a remodeling contractor that's been a client for years, and we discovered that yes, everybody promised to do great work. But anybody who's done a remodel, I don't know if you've ever had a kitchen remodel, but it's a disaster for somebody in their home. So what's the experience like of the remodeling process? That's just as important as the project itself. If any of you have gotten Google reviews, which for local businesses, you definitely need to, that just needs to be a part of your marketing efforts. But they also hold a real gold mine as far as messaging goes, as far as I'm concerned anyway. So I'm going to show you a couple examples of one business and highlight some of the things that you can pick up from Google reviews, because people most times have voluntarily gone and left a 5-star raving review about a company because that company did something that exceeded their expectations. We rarely go and leave a 5-star review because we got what we paid for. We do it because they did something, somebody did something to exceed our expectations. They came and worked as scheduled and cleaned up nicely after it was done. The guys showed up on time and did a wonderful job. In the past, we have dealt with people who didn't show up or do a professional job. Everything was cleaned up very well. So I thought I had a fourth one there. So in those 3 messages, the overriding theme was they showed up when they said they would, and they cleaned up the job site. So if some of you are very fast readers, you may be able to tell what kind of company this is, but it was always about the experience. It wasn't about the actual product or service performed. Happens to be a tree service. And in very few cases did they actually talk about, they cut down they did an amazing job cutting down a tree. No, they showed up when they said they would, and they cleaned up the job site. That's the thing that those people, those homeowners, are not getting from other service providers. So that became their core message. I promise you, we'll show up when we say we will. We'll clean up before we leave. Many times we're afraid to express what it is because it seems so simple. Now, this isn't just their message. This then becomes everything. This becomes their process. They have an on-time guarantee now. They actually communicated in when somebody calls for a free estimate, they actually communicate or over the top about the fact that they're going to show up at this allotted time, rather than we've all waited for the cable person, right? That gives you a 6-hour window of when they're going to show up. Well, that's just not going to cut it. And so they make that little thing, seemingly little thing, a core part of their differentiator. If you have not done this, I heartily recommend that you pick out, if some of you are starting to think about those core ideal customers. Pick out 6 or 8 of them and get them on the phone and just ask them a handful of questions. Why'd you choose us in the first place? What do we do that other people don't do? If you were going to refer us to your friends or neighbors, what would you actually say to them as far as why they should hire us or buy from us? Now, you're going to get a lot of answers like, oh, you just provide great service. And so you've got to push a little bit. When did we provide good service? Tell me a story about a time when we provided good service. If you do these interviews and you ask those questions and you listen, and then you look at your Google reviews if you have those, I can almost guarantee you that there'll be some gold mine nuggets in there for what you should be saying at the top of the fold on your website. All right, let's talk about this idea of the customer journey. So for so long, this idea of the marketing funnel, has just been, you run some ads and you get a few people to squeeze them through there and turn them into customers. And I think that this no longer, this idea of creating demand, no longer addresses the way that people buy today. This is, I don't know if you use Google Trends at all. I love it. But about 2014 or so, the idea of the marketing funnel, was very, very commonplace marketing. The customer journey just kind of crept into the dialogue the last 5 or 6 years. But as you can see, it's clearly eclipsed, searches for this idea of the marketing funnel, because the customer is really in charge today in a way like they never were. And I'll give you a few examples of what we have to deal with. 61% of mobile searches are more likely to contact a local business if they have a mobile-friendly website. What does that mean? It means we better have a website that shows quite well on a mobile device. I have clients that are in the 80% range, meaning all of their traffic. 80% of their traffic is viewed on a mobile device. 87% of potential customers won't consider a business with low ratings. What does that mean? Certainly better be focused on getting high ratings. 64% of consumers say watching marketing video on Facebook has influenced them to purchase decision in the last month. Not only have to be on Facebook, we now have to be producing video that we put on Facebook. 92% of consumers will visit a brand's website for the first time for reasons other than making a purchase. So it's no longer enough, you're saying, to just have our phone number and look at it as a brochure. People go to websites to start their journey, to get educated, to learn if you're a company they can trust. Our websites have a lot of jobs to do today. But here's the real kicker for a lot of people. 82% of small business owners claim their main source of new business is referrals. I wrote a book called The Referral Engine 7, 8 years ago now. And I surveyed several thousand business owners, and my numbers came up very much in line with this. But here's the funny thing, that a lot of business owners make the assumption then that all I need to do is do good work and I'll get referrals. The problem is that, as those last 5 slides showed, the way people make referrals, the way that they think about referrals, what they do when they get a referral, has changed dramatically. And the thing that's changed the most about marketing is how people become customers. We all want to focus on this idea of, oh, we've got TikTok and we've got Clubhouse, if you've seen that latest one out there. There's all these things that are rotating around that give us access to customers. But we really have to understand is how people make decisions about who they're going to do business with. Many of those ways in which they do that are now out of our control, and that the customer journey looks a little more like this than the traditional marketing funnel approach. So what I want to suggest is a tool that I've been using with our clients for many years, something that we call the marketing hourglass. And this is a framework for how to think about the customer journey. And the idea behind this is that there are 7 stages. You can read them there: know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. And our job is to help sort of logically move people down those stages rather than just trying to turn somebody into a buyer because we have a product. Now, think of your own buying to really kind of validate this idea. If you have a problem you're trying to get solved, you want to know who might be able to solve that problem. You want to know companies that you can call. Once you do get a name or you visit a website, we're always making snap decisions. Are they saying the things? Do I like their website? A lot of things. You think about all the things that go through our mind. Does it load fast? Does it look good on a mobile device? Or are those colors off-putting? We're making lots of snap decisions. before we then want to think about, okay, so if I'm going to engage this company, if I'm going to hire, if I'm going to give them my hard-earned money, I sure better trust that they can deliver on what it is that they're promising. I don't know about you, but I love it when I have the ability to try what it might be like to work with a company. And let's face it, somebody picks up the phone, somebody fills out a form, to try to get a quote. They're trying you at that point. Now there are other ways that they can try with like a trial product or a free, 30-day trial. But every way in which they kind of start making contact, they're trying your business out. And then, of course, once we buy, I mean, how many of you have been disappointed by, the promise up to everything, and then once you buy, it's nothing, it's crickets, right? And you're not sure you're going to get what you paid for. We have that buyer's remorse. That's why they call it that. And then, of course, once I find a business that solves my needs, I mean, I don't go shopping around. I go right back to them as long as they've done what they promised, exceeded my expectations. I just call them back up again. And I think we all want that kind of peace of mind. And then as humans, I think we're wired to talk about, some people are very wired to connect and to network and to refer. But I think all of us have the some wiring in us that if companies surprise us or exceed our expectations, we want to talk about them. So our job as marketers is to really tap these behaviors that our buyers want to participate in, and find ways to logically move them. So here's how we apply the marketing hourglass. Essentially, I'll show the form because I think it helps visualize it a little better. Essentially, we'll just go and brainstorm. And I suggest you do this with your staff or just on your own. Just brainstorm. Okay, how does somebody come to know about a business like ours when they have a need? What would make them like us? What do we need to demonstrate to them so that we'll build trust? How could they try us? Or what would they expect to try? Once they become a customer, what do they expect the buying process to be like? What would make them so thrilled they'd want to stay a customer or buy more from us? And then lastly, what do we need to do in order to turn every one of those folks into a referral source? So that's the first step. Just like, what do you think your buyer does? Because not every industry has the exact same path. I mean, today, increasingly, a lot of people come to know about businesses by turning to a search engine. And typing in a search term, and that's how they come to know about it. But a lot of businesses today, I mean, we probably wouldn't hire an attorney or an accountant in that fashion. We probably are going to ask a friend or a neighbor. So you want to go through your business and just brainstorm that for your current customers, and then make a map of, okay, well, what are we doing to make sure that we're addressing what their expectation is or what their path is. For example, in the no category, if you're in one of those businesses that people turn to search engines, well, you better be producing content and focus on search engine optimization as ways that people are going to find you. And then the last one is, and so the middle row essentially is for you to say, well, here's what we do now or what we don't do. So you helped you identify the gaps. And then the last row, when we're working with folks, is just what projects, messages, campaigns, processes do we need to add or revise? So a lot of times there is no try. The buying process is very haphazard. So there's no onboarding, there's no orientation, there's no process to go back and measure results to get repeat customers. You never ask for referrals, so there's no process for intentional referral generation. So this map becomes kind of the framework for everything. And a lot of times, when we do this with a company, this becomes a year's worth of work that needs to be done so that we can kind of shore up this customer journey. What I always like to tell people to do is to think about it backwards too. We're all really good at thinking, how could people come to know us? What ads could we run? What email could we send? How could we get the click? And what I'd suggest is you actually look at your business and say, how can we make 100% of our customers want to refer us? And I think that by starting from that point, you're more likely to create a better customer experience. You're more likely to add things to your products and services before the idea of trying to get the phone to ring. All right, I'm going to breeze through the use of content today. Content, it was fashionable 5 or 6 years ago to talk about content is king. It's basically air. I mean, every channel that we work with in some fashion, advertising, public relations, SEO, every channel is powered really by content. And it's the primary tool that people use to actually help move people through the customer journey. I want to recommend that you start thinking about building, instead of blogs and blog posts, which again, I was one of those people 10 years ago saying everybody's got to have a blog. You have to have content that is useful. A blog just happens to be a content management tool. So stop thinking about a blog as something that is a diary, or that you once a week put some random content in that just kind of scrolls off into space, and start thinking about building what we call content hubs. You can still use a blogging tool to do it. But the idea behind a content hub is it becomes a very useful, organized, structured piece of content, very deep piece of content that, first of all, your visitors or your prospects or clients will love, and Google will love as well. So an example of the hub page is, oops, I didn't realize that far down. The idea behind this is that you build an overarching theme for content and then organize a lot of content around that. So this was built for actually an executive recruiting firm. And they've worked in technology. So the idea behind this is the number one represents the page, the hub page, and then 2 through 7 are subcategories in that page, so that this page is clear. I mean, it's almost like a table of contents, and that's this that I was showing you here. This is a table of contents almost for everything you need to know about a tool called Google My Business, so that all of a sudden, Google crawls this page and says, oh, this is really useful, informative. People visit this page, we promote this page, and all of a sudden now we've built a utility on our website. So start thinking about organizing your content around major themes here that you can, over time, create additional content that goes under it, so that it becomes kind of the ultimate guide in many ways. For all of those pages that you build, make sure that you have something that's related to that page. So somebody comes to our ultimate guide to Google My Business, and we offer them an ebook that is the local SEO playbook that they can opt in for. And so now, not only is this content found in search engines, not only is it useful, we're actually capturing an email address so that we can continue to follow up with those folks. And this is just a quick screenshot of one of our follow-up campaigns. So when somebody actually wants that SEO book, that's not just the thing that we send them. We actually have, and there's software that certainly makes this very easy, measured out software that over another 40 days or so is going to continue to send them content, is going to continue to say, would you like to meet to hear about how we can do this? Would you like a website review? So it just automates the process of us continuing to follow up. So you take this content, you take the lead capture, and then you take this automated follow up, and all of a sudden you've got a machine that's kind of working for you, eventually day and night. Another easy way to do it is to write one of these blog posts, turn to Facebook, build an audience on Facebook, using their parameters. If you're a local business, then you just boost that. You can spend $10 a week, and all of a sudden start drawing people to your content, your hub pages that then might give them some reason to give you their email address. The last piece I want to focus on is this idea of working with your best customers' entire ecosystem. So I want to talk about this idea of building a strategic partner platform. So what I would suggest that you do, and this is probably the lowest cost way for you to get the biggest bang for your buck. I want you to think in terms of all the other businesses out there that are non-competitive, that with you, that also serve your ideal client. And I want you to make a list of 8, 10, 12 of them. Even ask some of your clients, who else do you use? So for example, if you were an accountant, you might ask them who their attorneys are, or you might ask them just other professionals that they work with. If you're a HVAC contractor, just ask them who they hire for electrical work, or who they hire for plumbing work. You want to build this list of potential best of class other providers, with the idea that if you could identify this and you had customers that had other needs, you'd have a ready-made source of people to refer them to. So identify this list, and then I want to show you how to recruit them and activate them and actually turn them into kind of a referral army. So again, this is just a couple tools that we use to be able to brainstorm. And what I would create is, what we create for our clients is something we call the perfect introduction. So you would basically answer or fill out, these answers. How could I spot your ideal client? And literally, if somebody asked you that question, how would I spot your ideal client? That you actually are able to say, well, they're typically this, this, and this. How would I present your core message? What are some things that people say that indicate that they would be a great fit for us? If you have some sort of referral offer, tell them what it is. Tell them what your process is. Once somebody contacts you, what do you do? So the idea behind this is a tool for you to educate potential partners. Now, if you just sent that out to somebody, you're probably not going to get much response. But what we do is we create the perfect introduction in reverse. And so what that means is we send a letter to potential partners that says something along the lines of, we have clients or customers that we believe could benefit from your services. If one of your clients told them, yeah, you should call so-and-so, reference that. Our mutual client said that we should get in touch with you. And you're not going to ask them to get together to maybe brainstorm how you could work together. You're basically going to say, we have clients that we believe could benefit from your services. I wonder if you could tell us the best way to refer you to our clients should we have a need. Now that's going to get their attention, right? If you got that letter, you're probably going to respond. But then we also include, here's a form that would make it easy for you to just tell us the best way to refer you. And by the way, we filled one out that will give you, an example of how we complete this form for ourselves. So what happens is you're going to have, if you send out 10 letters, you're going to get 5 phone calls or emails pretty quickly with this for people saying, hey, yeah, I want to talk. Let's get together. So make sure that nobody shows up on that list unless you truly would, or believe at least that you would refer them to your best customers. So that's kind of how that works. So that starts all of a sudden getting you sort of people invited to be in your network. Then what you want to do is think in terms of having some way that you could work together. So is there a webinar you could do together? Is there content that you could share? Could they actually write content for your blog? Could you interview them for a podcast or in a video series? So start thinking about ways that you might actually be able to do things jointly. And it doesn't have to be 8, 10, 12 folks. It could be 2 or 3 other partners. There's ways for you to co-market your services. I worked with an electrician and an HVAC contractor and a plumber that we worked out a special offer that every time one of their technicians went in, they would actually hand out a special offer or a discount for the other 2 partners. So they tripled their efforts. You can, if you've produced some great content, if you produce one of these checklists or these ebooks that we use all the time, you can actually go to a potential strategic partner and say, look, I'll let you co-brand this and send this out, to your list, because it would be, it would be great content. It would be valuable content for them to receive. So there are many things that you can do to actually kind of activate some of these potential strategic partners. But anytime somebody asks me, they're just getting started, or they just want to find ways to, low cost or no cost, start getting in front of some folks, this idea of the strategic partnership is probably the most potent one that I could suggest. So many of these ideas have appeared in some of my books. I actually have another book coming out in September of this year called The Ultimate Marketing Engine. Some of what I shared here, there's a great deal more in there, obviously, but some of what I shared here will be in that book as well. So, Michael, that is the extent of my presentation today. And folks on the call, if you want to find out more about my work, it's just ducttapemarketing.com. And I'm happy if you've got questions after today, or you just want to run some things by me. I'm always open to conversations at john@ducttapemarketing.com. So.
Thank you so much, John. Let's open it up for questions. If you have any questions, you can feel free to throw it in the chat box. And, one popped up already. So it says, I have been referred to a client, but I quoted 30% lower than list price. What do you recommend to adjust my pricing next year and not break the trust?
Mm. So yeah, that's a great question because a lot of times, especially anytime we're trying to get, business, with a new idea that is, it's very common. And it is, I don't know, Leopold, what your business is, but if in professional services, particularly, sometimes, people are like, that's the rate. And it's, you could raise it 10 cents and all of a sudden, wait a minute, it's 10 cents more an hour, or something. So what I find is that you constantly have some discussions about, make sure that you are reviewing results, that you are helping them understand the value of the work that you've received, even if that value is intangible, like, save time or, things of that nature. Make sure you're communicating that. And then, as far as communication goes, make sure that you are communicating the expectation upfront that, you said you quoted 30% lower than your list price, Leopold. You should communicate that. As a new customer, I am doing this because, we're breaking into a market or, whatever the rationale might be. But our normal price is this. And, we are, assuming you're thrilled with the work that we do and want to retain us for next year, here's what you can expect our price to be. So I think where people get upset is when it's just their assumption was it was going to be the same price and you showed up on day one or whatever of year two, as you explained, and all of a sudden it's a surprise. People don't like surprises. People don't mind open, honest communication that explains to them why, but they don't like surprises.
Thank you, John.
Uh-huh.
In regards to the various marketing channels and marketing strategies, what are some metrics or KPIs you recommend to really
Sure.
measure the success of those marketing channels?
Well, so much of marketing today happens online. So the biggest thing I can tell people that they need to be doing is tracking. So if you're not using Google Analytics, that's a free, very, very powerful tool so that you can track a lot of the interaction on your website. And then the other is call tracking. So many businesses today still rely on somebody picking up that phone and calling them. Now, what the softwares that are available do is they not only allow you to say, okay, we got 3 phone calls, that's great, but where did those come from? We use call tracking tools that actually allow us to see that we ran X ad that got this click that drove this conversion. So the ultimate goal is to track everything that you're doing to attribute it to what was successful, what was a conversion, a form filled out or a phone call made, are two great goals that every business should be tracking in their Google Analytics. Now, in this space, I can't tell you exactly how that's done or how to set that up, but if you're working with anybody consulting wise and they're not setting up conversion goals in your analytics, then you should go look for somebody else because again, how much traffic you got or even how much growth in traffic you got is irrelevant if you can't track it to, did they call me? Did they fill out a form? Did they take the action that turns them into a customer?
Got it, got it. Great information. So another one just came in from Cynthia. She said, would you talk more about the customer actions in the hourglass journey map?
Sure. So that's the middle row, and that's the top row. Sorry. Basically, what we're saying there, in some cases, it's hypothetical because maybe you don't know, but in a lot of cases, you do know because you've witnessed it. But what we're saying there is, uh, and Cynthia, maybe you can tell me what type of business you're in, so I can make it even more specific to you. But what we're saying is, if I'm a plumbing company, how do people come to know, like when somebody's pipes break, what do they do to find out who can fix their problem? And a lot of times it's a list of things. So well, they turn to a search engine, or they go to their next door neighbor and say, "Hey, I know you had somebody come fix something at your house. Did you like them? What'd they do?" Or they will go to there might be an ad, or they might hear a radio. I mean, it's just what are the typical actions that a customer takes to kind of meet that step. Now, once they find that person, let's say they clicked on an ad and they went to the person's website, well, then the action they're taking there a lot of times is they're going to look around, they're going to analyze, do I like what they're saying? Oh, consulting, Cynthia, I can talk about that all day long. So, again, in your business, I can guarantee you that even if somebody, a lot of times people come to know about a consultant because they asked for a referral, or clients, they see that you've done great work for somebody, to say, "Hey, what's the name of that consultant you've been working with? Because, you seem to really have it all figured out now." So the very next thing they're going to do is they're going to go to your website. And again, like I said, there's these kind of like, do you seem to be talking about me? Do I see, do I see that you work with my industry, or work with people that have the challenge that I have? And then they're going to go to so what is that then somebody going to do to establish trust? Well, now they're going to start looking for reviews. They're going to start looking for case studies. They're going to start trying to understand if who else you have worked with. So those are just the actions. I mean, you may have actually you may identify other things that people do when they work, or when they have hired you, and again, maybe some consultants get hired because of trade shows, particularly in the B2B world, or maybe people hire consultants. We worked with a software consultant that trade shows were a big deal for them, but also they worked with nonprofit only, and so industry publications in the nonprofit world were still a big deal for them to contribute content to. So those, we're just trying to map out what actions do customers take, or what actions do we believe customers, or prospects in this case, take in order that would lead them to us. I mean, and again, what we're really trying to say then is, okay, what do we need to be doing then? If, for example, they go to trade shows and they consult their industry publications, well, then we need to put those two things on our marketing map for activities that we need to participate
John, how frequently do you recommend someone communicate with clients?
Well, of course, that's one of those that would depend on a lot of businesses. But, in my particular world, in the consulting world, I'll tell you what we do with a client is, we have weekly reports that say, here's what we did this week. Here's what we have planned to do the coming week. We have monthly meetings where, an account manager will meet with a client to say, here are the results we achieved. And then we'll have quarterly meetings, because in our particular case, we do a lot of strategic planning in those quarterly meetings. And then, we have an annual review. So, not every business certainly would need that. But I think that a lot of businesses wait for the client to say, or the customer to call them, say, "Oh, I need this," or "Something's wrong," right? We feel that by over communicating in some cases, or at least having that set rhythm, then we don't get surprised. They don't get surprised. We're able to communicate value. In a lot of service-based businesses, clients, you're just getting them the result, month after month. Everything's going great, and they see, and all they're seeing is the invoice that comes in, and they sometimes neglect to appreciate how much work it actually takes to get that result, because you're not communicating.
And it looks like there have been no additional questions added. So
Awesome.
with that, we will conclude today's seminar. Again, thank you for attending, and be sure to check out the YouTube page, where in about a week it will be uploaded for you to be able to take another look at this session, as well as the other ones that have happened prior. Other than that, have a great day.
All right. Thanks all.